space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a reminder, the conference is right around the corner. It's almost here. Finally, we cannot wait to see you guys there. Rebels of Disclosure in Grafton, Illinois, May 13th through the 16th, and tickets are still available at rebelsofdisclosure.com. We have 4-day passes, 1-day passes, and if you can't make it in person, live stream virtual passes are always available. And it's a fun experience. If you join the Telegram group that is on the website, you can actually participate in the live Q&A if the presenter takes questions at the end of their presentation. So that's a cool feature. But all the information and more is available at rebelsofdisclosure.com. It's not too late to grab a ticket, and we hope to see you there. Tonight, we are joined by Susan Manewich. She is an author and a contactee with an incredible testimony, and we're going to be getting into some of that. And, she has memories of her life, her soul before her incarnation here. And it's mind blowing, honestly. And some of the stuff that she has experienced along the way is very profound, and her takeaways are even more profound. And I think it's very crucial to, not just tell your story, but share what you've learned from it. And that's something that she does. And kind of takes it to the next level. So we're super excited to get into all that and kind of what she's been dabbling in today, which is, I guess some of her thoughts and opinions on the current state of affairs here in the situation that we're on, globally, actually. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Great to have you on.
Go ahead.
Real quick. So I saw your Collective Evolution interview actually a few years back. Whenever Joe started his the streaming platform for it, I signed up back then, and I remember watching your the first interview you did with him on there, and I was blown away by it. But then I kind of forgotten about you. But then I rediscovered it not too long ago, and I was like, oh yeah, Susan Manewich. and
Cool.
and then I picked up on more details,
Right.
from the first two interviews that you did with Joe Martino.
Yeah,
I sent it to Tyler, and he was blown away by it. So.
Well, yeah, I don't do a ton of interviews, I mean,
Right.
so a couple here and there, it seems. And I'm glad that you watched that. Joe was great.
Yeah, and well, he asked good questions, and he liked to go really deep into he would ask the hard questions, but you had some beautiful answers, and we listen to interviews and we interview people all the time, right? And there's just something about what you were sharing that felt a little different to me, and I really appreciated that, and that's kind of why we're here doing this today. So maybe for the audience who doesn't know, you can kind of give us a rundown of what you've experienced and how that led you to where you are today.
Okay, sure. So let me just do this, maybe my current life. So I do consciousness research. I am an author. I do research. I'm doing another independent research project right now. And I've worked in the field of new energy technology, published a book on that. I've ran a company, and it's still in the process of being run at this point, but we're just undercover a little bit for new energy technology. And prior to that, I had a career in organizational development, emotional intelligence. I actually worked with the people that developed did the real research of emotional intelligence. So it's popular now, or maybe its popularity is fading, but it was popular back in the day. So I was doing it right as it was becoming something, right? And that was always a really great experience, because to me, emotional intelligence relates a lot to consciousness. And so, just to share that piece. And I worked with a lot of corporate clients and taught at Harvard Business School, University of Chicago Business School. So taught over the globe, the topic of emotional intelligence. And yes, I happen to be, I guess the popular term is a contactee or experiencer, but I think maybe we can get even a little bit deeper than that. As some of you, as both of you know, and maybe some other people know, I'm one of these people that came in. I just innately always remembered my incarnation, remember where I was before, this body came into form. And I that wasn't something that, I remembered when I was 20 or 30. That wasn't the case. I mean, I remembered it as a baby in the womb, and I remembered it when I would speak to my brothers and my sister. I'd always tell them, I'd be like, I mean, here's the joke. I would say, "Oh my God, I can't believe I came out of the same womb as you people because I just was
Right.
different." And I love family, and at the same time, like, there was these differences in me and my siblings, right? Like they were loud, and and if you I grew up in the 70s, and it was, like I said, it was loud and it was busy and there was a lot going on, and I would literally go hide in my closet and meditate as a 2-year-old just to like get that quiet, centered, calm space. And my family was not into meditation or spirituality. I mean, they were like a really typical American family. Making do with what we had, and there was always a lot of chaos in the house because of a loud loud older brothers and an older sister. And we had kind of a small house, and animals, and like dogs, cats, and things like that. But yeah, I always remembered that, and I would tell my brother, I would just say, I remember being in mom's womb, and I remember where I came from. So the kind of the running joke was like, Susan, although they had a different nickname for me, Susan was just different, right? And so yeah, that's how I came in. And because of, I mean, I remembered even a lot in utero. The first thought I had when I remembered being in my mother's womb was, oh no, not this place again. Because of the density,
Right.
I could feel the density in my body. And the second thought was, honestly, it was about human beings in this, I'll call it the cyclic human condition, that had to do with negativity, jealousy, anger, ignorance, greed. It was that. And I was like, oh, we got to come back and deal with this again, right? um, but that was truly, what I had remembered. And going to the beings, when I saw them as a child, I had been waiting for them. Like it was like this, it wasn't so much of a thought of when are they coming. It was just this, this like this magnetic feeling of call it your cosmic family, or call it, whatever you want to call it. But it was just like, okay, here's my physical family, and I love them, and they're beautiful, wonderful people. I love my mother dearly. Mom is your center point of your life, and as you're a baby and a young person, and your dad, and your animals. And but there was this sense of, what, there's more to me than that. So maybe that helps to give a bit of a descriptor.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's so prior to your incarnation, you described being, can you describe what you remember? Like, did you have a physical body? Was it just an energy body? For the audience who
Yeah.
hasn't heard your story.
Yeah, and I don't think I've shared this too much publicly, because I do remember a lot. And if I just sit in meditation, I can have a little bit, more of that come in. So maybe if I take a little bit of time, just going a little slow in this explanation, then I'll share more. um, so I remember feeling close to God, source. Like that was my first call it the first thought, or memory. And I remember I was connected to this other being, but it wasn't a being like a human or an interdimensional being. It was like this cosmological being. Call it you can call it a nebula, you can call it a galaxy, whatever you want to call it. But it was cosmological. It wasn't a person, so to speak. It was an energy source. And I remember that I was like connected, like my call it energy cells, were fused with this other celestial body. Okay, that's what I would say. And I remember literally unpeeling myself from this celestial body, and I took my feminine form with me. I don't think I've ever shared that before. So it was as if like my my energy cells were fused with this being that did have what felt like male energy. And it's such terrible terms because like our dense earth plane to say male and female, right?
It's
But
limiting. Yeah.
yeah, it's limiting, but that's the sense of what it was. And as I was pulling away to begin my incarnation in this body, I felt that feminine more fully, if that makes sense. And um and I remember that there was the next thing I saw, like the next scene, so to speak, is there was these golden beings, and I make a joke and say they're like the foot soldiers of Source.
Mm.
They were getting they're very tall and golden, and they were getting their direction from Source, but not in language. It was in energy form, and so it was if as if they were getting an understanding of what needed to be balanced out on Earth, as it relates to God or source. And it did look, God source looked like the grandson, by the way, like
Right.
grandson, the
Right. Yeah.
grandson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. And I knew that I was connected to this golden pod of beings. And when I say pod, it's because they also worked in concert with one another. And I knew that I was a part of that. Like, even though I was seeing the being doing that with Source, I knew I was connected to that in some way. And there was this group of other beings. Like, the next scene was this group of other beings, and we were in this circle, um it, like celestially. This is all celestial. We're in this circle, so to speak, and literally what felt like, you call it a wormhole, call it a black hole, whatever you want. The next thing I know is I am literally like leaving that space, and I can feel myself, what it feels like, and again, bad terms, bad language, like traveling through the universe to drop into density. And I could actually feel my energy body slowing down. Like, it was real fast at first, and I could feel it slowing down. And then I then heard, your job is to understand how they live on this planet. And then the next thing I remember is I do remember being energy in the corner of my parents' bedroom. Um, and it was at night. And yes, my mother and father were on the bed. I don't think I've ever said that, but I do remember that. And the next thing I know, I'm sorry, let me back up. So I was energy in the upper corner of their bedroom. And I was like kind of this loose ball of like, charged energy. Like, I felt it. I was it. And my next memory was when I was actually in my mother's womb, probably about 7 months. And that's when I had that thought of, oh my God, not this place again. Because I could hear the loudness. I could hear my brothers, and I could hear my sister. And I knew my mom was standing in the kitchen. I just knew it. And I could actually see the kitchen, without, like, I could see what it looked like before I actually saw what it looked like, in
Like
physical.
almost through her eyes, maybe you were perceiving what she saw, or just it was just there is no physical body yet. Technically, like you were still growing, so it was just you were still more of a consciousness.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe. I never thought about that. I knew that though. I remember I put my ear, like I remember literally jockeying my ear up to the wall of, like, her womb to hear better.
wow.
Um so somehow with that hearing, I was able to see where she was standing in the kitchen. And again, I know it sounds kind of weird. These are things that, you don't really think about too much because there's so much that's going on in this world right now that it's like you try to use this mind, whatever it all came in for, to figure out some of these other things, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I remember. And yeah,
So,
so much to say about that piece, but
would you say that, do you have past life memories of anything else, or do you think this was like your first incarnation
no.
here? Okay.
No, no, again, I didn't grow up spiritual. My family liked nature. My dad and mom were real lovers of nature. They weren't activists or anything. They were just literally like they would go sit outside and, look at the birds, and they were just, they loved them. My dad loved fishing, and so my family loved nature, thank God. But again, not spiritual. So I started to have these innate memories. Well, I didn't know they were memories at first. And it was like one after the other. Like for example, when I was a kid, we weren't taught about Egyptian anything in school. I mean, I went to pretty basic public school. And I remember drawing the Eye of Horus like over and over and over. And I draw the beings over and I draw the ships over. Like I would just draw, that. And it always had this real strong connection to the Eye of Horus in my drawings. And it was, I don't know, when I got into college and I remember seeing the Eye of Horus, I'm like, oh my God, I used to draw that as a kid. What is that? You know? And honestly, a lot of this was innate. So I remember several past lives. One, I was working to protect the energy technologies that were in Egypt. See why I worked on the new energy technology in this lifetime, right?
Hmm.
And I do remember a couple of other past lives. And ironically, some of those a lot of them played out in this physical reality. It was almost like picking up where I left off to do what I didn't do previously in those lives. And it's like, okay, you're in this 3D form now, so now you have the opportunity to do these things you didn't do previously.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a queen, I wasn't Isis. I wasn't that, but yeah, I do remember several. So there
Yeah.
are a couple, like more than I can tell you, it's less than six and more than three.
Well, the reason I asked is
Right.
because you have memories at source before this incarnation. So I didn't know if you were implying that, like, I don't know, like you had just, this was your first incarnation. But so whenever you, I guess, after you were born, and how long was it until you had your first experience with the beings?
That I remember probably around 4 or 5. I used to say in interviews 5, and the more I started to really like kind of like, go back and think about it, probably around 4. And I do remember being a toddler in my crib and standing up like over the rail and having an awareness that they were there as well. But I don't physically remember seeing them at that point. I had an awareness that they were there. So that was probably around 2. But yeah, about 4 or 5 is when it was like game on, you know?
So what happened? Did they come and like take you onto a ship? Did they, what was that experience like?
Yeah. Something just came in, so I want to say that first if I can.
Of
Um,
course.
okay, thank you. The very first being that I ever saw, I'm not religious, okay? Zero. I grew up like bad Catholic. Like not doing the things I was supposed to do. I put my
Mm.
like feet up and I was not well behaved. Um, the first being that I saw was Jesus, and we had no Jesus signs and signs. Sorry, no crosses in our house. We didn't have anything like that. Like I said, we were bad Catholics. My grandmother was an amazing Catholic, and it just didn't transcend to the rest of my family. She used to always get mad at my dad because of that. Anyways, so I did see that, and I want to share that because there's something about that that relates to the beings. And as you're growing up trying to figure all this stuff out, it feels like it's all these separate chunks, but then you actually realize, oh wait, this whole thing is like part of the one.
Right.
So I remember when I was, like I said, maybe around 2 or so, I had this feeling that it was like my energy was being like pulled down to pulled down to the floor, um in a way that felt like I was just going down was the best way to describe it. And I don't know where that came from. I remember I was literally standing in the den of my the house that I grew up in. And my first inclination was to like reach my left arm out to ask God for help. And I remember literally seeing in the sky turned pink. And I remember seeing, what we now know as Jesus, like literally it enveloped the entire sky. Like it was enormously large. And then that feeling of, the feeling of love came over, and the feeling of you're going to be okay. And, I just want to share that piece, because that was the first experience. It wasn't seeing the beings. That was what I would call the first, what do you call call it an interdimensional experience, but that was the first one. And subsequently, when I was, like I said, about 4 or 5, I remember I was sleeping in, my sister and I shared a bedroom, and we had bunk beds, and I was on the bottom, she was on the top. And I remember laying in bed, and I was awakened by this feeling of this, now I have the words for it, this deep electromagnetic charge. It was like all the cells of my body had become alive and charged, and they began to separate. And it was weird. It was like a super strange feeling. But I knew, as I was laying there in bed and I was facing the window, I knew they were coming. I could feel it. And it wasn't like excitement or being scared. It wasn't. It was just like, okay, this is happening, right? Like, and it was primordial. For me, it was primordial. It was like, it's deeper than your day-to-day experiences that you have. Much deeper than that, deeper than a dream.
Right.
Primordial is the best way to describe it. And the next thing I know is my sister jumps to the window, because the ship had come over the house, and it was above our tree in our backyard. And I hear my sister, who's facing the window, she says, "Oh my God, Susie, what is it?" And I'm 10 years younger than she is. So I'm like, well, it's them, like, but I can't say that consciousness wise, because like, I know my sister doesn't know. And you just, it's hard to, again, it's hard to explain, because these things, but you're still
Yeah.
a child operating in a little body with like, your consciousness may be like big on some level, but you're still like aware that you're a little person,
I mean,
who's yeah.
just to interject for a second, we do the same thing today. If you saw something in the sky or whatever it is, you understand what it is, but the people next to you don't, you're not going to say, oh yeah, that's an interdimensional being from a ninth density planet and a Pleiadian,
I
whatever.
mean, you
You
can.
I mean, I'm saying you
Might think you're
can,
crazy,
but your autopilot kind of kicks in and you're like, yeah, I don't know. You just kind of play along with it. Like, I don't know what it
Yeah.
is.
So did you know you
Thank you.
did you immediately know who the beings were at that age when that happened? You like just innately already knew they were your star
I
family?
I wouldn't say my thought process said this is my star family. It was more like, this is why I'm here.
Mm.
It was like, well, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm in this body. And that's what I mean by that primordial piece too. It was like,
Yeah.
and it was more than this is my job. It was like, it's more than that,
Right.
Mhm.
it's more than that.
It's hard to put into words, right?
Yeah, because it's about evolution, and it's about cosmology. It's about the way that these natural forces work.
Right.
That's what I felt was in my body, that I was a part of these natural forces, and this is how it is.
Yeah.
So, so
You
you
know?
saw him, so you saw him out the window, and what happened then?
Okay, so my sister was at the window, and my sister says, "Oh, Susie, what is it?" And and again, I'm going, "Well, it's them." And the next thing I know, because not everything is a perfect little scene of like it does this is, so there's these chunks that are still there. The next thing I know is I'm basically. Oh, by the way, let me describe the ship. It was a light ship. It was beautiful, and I could see it, out the window, and it was circling like counterclockwise and then clockwise, and it had all these beautiful lights on it, and the colors were exceptionally gorgeous. And there was this light on the top as well that, looks like a crown chakra. I mean, it looked like the colors of the chakras, and it looks like this crown chakra. And it was just beautiful. And it had this gentle hum to it as well. So this is what I mean by primordial as well. Like this is, something that was just exceptional. And yeah, it did. It gave me a charge as well. And for it gave me a charge. There's so much that's coming in, so I'm just trying to slow it down. One of the next things that I remember, because I had so much contact as a child, that it's like this, I believe, is the next sequence on this contact experience. The beings, I remember them coming through the wall into the house, and my dad happened to be there, and my sister was there. And unfortunately, my dad has now passed, but my dad and my sister were there. And I remember my dad being quite scared, and he was sitting in a chair. And I remember my sister was there, and my sister was like panicking. She didn't know what was going on. And I remember thinking to myself, will you please calm down? There's no need to be like this. And I couldn't say that, but that's what I was feeling. And the next thing that I remember is there was, by the way, there was a group of 9 of them. And I have a picture that I use. If people go to my Substack account, they'll see it. But I have this picture that a friend of mine who's a graphic artist did. And there's this like configuration of these 9 beings, and how they move and work with group think, in group heart and group mind, and they can separate and they can work independently, and that's what they were doing. And one of the beings came right up to me, a little taller than I was at 4 or 5 years old, and it gently took my hand, this part of my hand right here, or like this part, and it just took its 2 fingers and touched me very gently, and said everything is going to be okay, and I knew, and it was almost as if I was looking at myself. And there was no fear. And the feeling that I got in my body was this incredible love, this warmth, this protection. And it was as if I was getting, my central nervous system was getting to feel what that love felt like in this physical body, because we have our energy body, but the physical body feeling that. And I knew that that's what that was about at that moment. It was about that. Connection, how critical that connection was for me to feel that physicality in my body of love. And again, I had very loving parents. There's love that you have from your parents that feels amazing. Some of us are blessed to have that. And then the love that I experienced in my body was like, on another level, which was incredible. So yeah, and I knew also, I think this was another experience, and not that this one that I'm speaking about. They were testing, they tested the water, they were testing the food, they were testing air. I remember literally they were concerned about, I don't want to say environmental, maybe it was energetic, but there was this concern, and they had to work really fast to get out. For whatever reason, which I think we now understand why. So that's what I remember. So, when people say to me, they're like, well, was it physical, or was it a dream? It's like, it wasn't a dream. It was physical. I was physically touched. My sister has a recollection, right? And what I saw is this, they could, when they worked in group mind, group think, they were illuminated. And when they worked more independently, they were more in physical form, and their skin was very like soft and super delicate and almost like powder. It wasn't powder, but that's what it was. So my belief today is that they can come into this shared reality for a short period of time, and to do what they're here to do.
Yeah.
I know. So it, for me, And I know other people say whatever they say about their contact, and hopefully all of us have a right to have our own understanding of what our own contact is. That mine was a continuation from what I had remembered coming in,
Right.
and it hasn't deviated from that. The only thing that has is the interference from the government. So
And
Right.
it's interesting to me that, they came and were testing the water and stuff. I think in a previous interview, you said they tested your pool water, which,
they did. That's what it was. It was the pool
yeah,
water.
yeah.
That's what I remember. It was pool water. And I'm like, why are
And,
you in my pool?
and they're probably be like, no, you can't swim in that. Uh,
Like, this is toxic.
right. But, and it makes perfect sense to me that they could only spend so much time here for a number of reasons. For one, energetically, it might be too dense. It might be difficult for them to actually exist in this reality in that form. And secondly, I think that if they do decide to show up and do some work and, gather samples and stuff like that, I think they might be on the radar of whatever groups are here, like governmental groups monitoring. So it's like a hit and run, like they got to get in and out type of thing. I think there's a few reasons
It's
for that.
safety. Yeah, and my own safety, and you talk about density. I mean, I struggled with the density on this planet. I mean, that was the first, right? And it's silly because like I'm a lot older. I should have figured these things out, but like it really hit me, just as I go through my life. In certain places I can be in, certain places I can't, certain people I can't be around. It's not easy, and so you have to work, right, to constantly increase your vibration,
Right.
your physical body, to handle certain things, and to do what you can to be here and be of this world while keeping this energy. And that's why I think that's probably why I shared with you the story of reaching out when I was like 2, because I felt like I was being like pulled through the floor. And
Right.
then what I now know is Jesus, right? And was it Jesus? Was it? I don't know. The bottom line is it helped me tremendously, and someone was there when I was
Right.
struggling to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I still struggle with the 3D physical body and this density. I mean, it's especially now since we're bombarded on all fronts, from all the poisoning and everything.
Yeah.
If you want to be healthy and raise your frequency, we have to work overtime right now, I feel like.
Full
Really,
time.
yeah, full-time job and overtime. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It's
It is.
important
Yeah, exactly.
important to
100%.
get out in nature as much as possible, away from the big cities and away from all the EMFs and all the stuff. I feel like because
Right.
nature is a lot closer to source, it's a lot purer, and the more you're out in that, you're connecting with that, and it's naturally going to help
Right.
raise your vibration and protect you, really.
100%. And that's, I know people say this. People say, well, there's no real nature anymore. That's not true.
It's not true.
No, look at the animals. We where I live, there's bears, there's moose, there's deer, and we have people that are loud around us as well. But that's where I choose to have my
Right.
focal point. Is they're doing it.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, there's nothing that makes me happier than observing wildlife and observing animals. It puts such a smile on my face just to watch them live and just wonder what their thought process is. Anyway,
Yeah. No,
so
yeah, they're amazing.
right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess fast forward, you tell a story about something that happened to you at age 7 and you
Mm,
were pulled out of school.
yeah.
And it's really, actually, I think that's a crucial part of the story because it just gives us an example of how people like you are being monitored and how long people like you have been monitored
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. And suppressed. We'll,
Right.
we'll share that one too. Um, yes, so I'll tell the story. That when I was about 7 years old, I think it was second or third grade. And I was always the youngest person in my grade because my birthday is in September. So, the way it worked in public school is like your cutoff was somewhere around September, so I was always the youngest one. So I don't know if it was, second or third grade, but it was around 7 years old. And I remember I was sitting in my classroom, and I always had a hard time paying attention. To the teacher. I'm not interested in it. And, typical, I remembered like looking at the clouds because they were pretty and, like fluffy blue, like blue sky with the white clouds, it's just really, really pretty. And we have these huge windows in my elementary school. And the next thing I know, I become really disoriented. I feel this like frequency or something in my ear. Like something came in like a wallop. Not physical, but it's like I could hear it and feel it. And the next thing I know, within a very, very short period of time, I feel sick, like I'm gonna throw up. I feel super disoriented. I begin sweating. My palms were sweaty. And I didn't know what was going on, like I'm sitting in my classroom and I didn't know what was going on. And I must have raised my hand to go to say to the teacher, I think I'm going to throw up. Like I need to go to the nurse. And I didn't even say it. And she looked at me and she goes, go to the nurse. And my elementary school wasn't big, but it wasn't small. And I remember opening up the door. I remember the first thing I noticed, there's no lights on in the hallway. Like the lights were off. And sometimes they would do that to say, it was the 70s. You got to remember they would save money for electricity.
Right.
There was like a shortage at the time. There was like this energy crisis that was going on. That just hit me. That's probably why those lights were off. But it was weird because it was dark. And, here I'm walking down this super dark hallway and all I needed to do is walk, I don't know, maybe like 50 feet or something like that. And in my elementary school, there was three people in the administration building. There was a secretary, a principal, and a nurse. And there was a separate door to get to the nurse's office. I went to try to open up the door to go to the nurse's office, and she was a sweetheart. She was lovely. Everybody loved her. And if you weren't feeling well and had a tummy ache, that's where you went. So, I thought Mrs. Crandall is going to make me feel better. So I opened up the door and it's locked. And so I'm like, what, like, okay, it was just like one thing after the other. So I go around the other door, which is an access point to get to the secretary's office. And when I walk in, the secretary is on the phone smoking a cigarette, which they did at that time. And she looked panic stricken. She was standing up, and I just remember her just being super out of sorts while she was on the phone. And then she told me to sit down, and I remember just sitting there thinking, I just want to get to the nurse. And she's like, the nurse isn't here. And I remember the principal was out that day for whatever reason. Somehow I knew that, or she said that. And I remember waiting there for a while. And then she said, I can't get a hold of your parents. Someone's going to take you home from the school. And I remember I didn't have, truthfully, I didn't have anxiety. I didn't even know what anxiety was up until that point. And I remember just starting to feel anxious and even more sick because I'm thinking my mom's a stay-at-home mom. Why am I being sent home? And as a kid, you feel like you did something wrong. Like, oh my God, what did I do? Like what's happening? What's going on? It's
And they
not
don't and they don't always just send you home immediately. I mean, they didn't even check you, right?
No, well, she was a secretary, so she probably couldn't. But for some reason, I got sent home, right? Well, home. So, and I remember being concerned, and I was always very quiet as a kid, very, very quiet. I wouldn't say I was shy. I was just cautious of the world around me, in the sense of like, who's what. If it's not your family, like who is it? But not scared, just cautious, having awareness. And the next thing I know, she tells me to go wait outside. And the her office has a window that you can see the parking lot is basically right there. So she says, go wait outside. And I thought that was strange, of course. But I did it because I'm told what to do. So I grabbed my little jacket, put it on, and like off we go. So I'm standing outside. I see this town car pull up. It's got the town emblem on it. It's like this old, station wagon. And I went to go get in the back seat, and that was intentional because I didn't know who this person was. And I'm thinking, why is my mom or dad not picking me up? That's not the way we do this as a family. Like this does, we have a close family. This is not how we do these things. And but I had, no cell phones back then. um,
Mhm.
so he tells me to go get in the front seat, and I knew. I mean, I started to have awareness that this is not good. And so I got in the front seat and I immediately put my body up against the door. And he won't look at me. And I won't look at him fully, but I'm giving him the side eye so I can see what he looks like, see his shoes, see his pants, see his face. And then he says to me, he says, you see those beings in those ships too? You see those beings in those ships? And immediately I have this like rush of, you know,
Right.
like,
This is not good. Yeah.
this is not good.
Mm.
And I knew he was lying. That was the first thing I want to share. I knew he was lying. I knew he was pretending to be a friend or be someone in the know. I knew he was lying. And two things happened, and I don't honestly remember what happened first, but we hadn't even left the parking lot at this point. Okay. And I lived a half a mile away from my school. All you had to do is take a left out the school parking lot. There's a stop sign, and then I lived a half a mile away. And this happened before we left the parking lot. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I'm remembering like the specific detail. Before we left the parking lot, I remember it was like I took part of my energy and moved it to the back of his head, where his, where his skull and his spine meet. And I said, if he ends up going any way other than taking me home, this is really, really bad. And I don't know why I did that. To this day, I don't I would love to talk to somebody about that, but that's, somehow I did that. And why, how, I'm not entirely sure. Like maybe I was reading something or whatnot. And instead of going straight through the stop sign, he takes a right and he says, we're going to take a little ride. And at that point, I get, don't say a word, do not let them know who you are. And I'm like, that, what I heard was not a voice. It was me, as if, I'm a mom. So like you say to your kid, don't go across the street. Don't go, don't do this. It's like you're giving a command because you're a parent trying to protect. And
Right.
that's what it was, literally as if my higher self came in and started taking, moving this thing for protection. And it's not like I hear, voices, or it's not the case. Like it's not, it was literally like the higher self coming in to like, for protection.
Right.
And the next thing I know, I do remember being taken down a side street. I do remember a lot more, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to share. I'm careful about that. But I do remember being taken down a side street. I do remember there was a struggle. I do remember something was put over my mouth to knock me out. And then I do remember being taken somewhere very close by and subjected to some things that were not very nice. I'll probably leave it there, but what I try to do is I try to take that experience and the knowledge of that experience, and I try to put that forth in my writings. Because so much of what happened to me as a kid, even in those hours that I was there, I've watched played out on the public, especially these last couple of years. So, whatever we want to call that, is it MK Ultra? What is it? But for me, I'll share this one thing, and happy for you to ask questions. For me, I got the sense when I was taken that they weren't interested in understanding who I was. They knew that people like us exist and we're a threat to them. That's what I knew, because I thought to myself, how am I like this scrawny? I was super skinny when I was little too. Like, how am I, a little 7-year-old kid, threatening to you? Why do you feel like you have permission to do this to me? And I talked to Dr. Edgar Mitchell. He was an Apollo 14 astronaut. And, because I said, I'm like, hey, I want to share this story with you. I had 5 hours in the car with him alone one day. I was bringing him from a conference to Boston Logan Airport from Maine. And I told him my story and I said, do you think you can help me understand how did they know it was me? Like, how did they figure that out? And he said they've had that technology for a very, very long time. And I said, yeah, but this is like the 70s. And are you sure? And he said, oh no, Susan, they've had that technology for a long time. And that, was one piece that I just said, whoa. And since then, since my brain likes to do research, I've been able to find things through FOIA requests that I have yet to share, that are pretty accurate to that. So I'll just leave that at that point, because like it's not it's not completely, I haven't written about it entirely, and I'm putting together some of these pieces, but it's there.
Right. You mean
Thankfully,
Right.
requests.
you mean finding information that supports a theory that they're monitoring us in ways that we don't understand, like that type of information?
Yeah, that they've had technology to do some serious high level surveillance for a very long time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
there's many insiders that have talked about that they can, I mean, not only can they track you and everything you do or say or think while you're incarnated, but they track star seeds as they incarnate. They know exactly where they are, who they are, they're tracking that. And like you said, it's been going on way longer than the 70s, way longer ago than
yeah.
the 70s. It's been going on a long time.
Yeah, and I try to in a lot of my writings, like I try to have everything really grounded. I do respect the process of intelligence and logic and in reason, it comes from like understanding things philosophically, right? Like, philosophy and logic. Like, there's these things that our brains and our minds are it's like a just a higher form of intelligence. So you try to have everything be grounded, because I think in that, I do anyways, because I've realized if I am going to open up my mouth, or write something, I want to be able to have it be well sourced, because
Sure.
I think that piece is important. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you get back home from that experience?
yeah, so here's the deal. Because I lived a half a mile away from the school, what I remember, literally, I remember the door opening, um that car. I remember the door opening. I remember my foot. I could see my foot getting out, and I was like, woozy and not clear, and my foot getting out, like stepping on the ground right in front of my neighbor's house, and you could hear the kids, because I walked to school. I could hear the kids behind me, like probably about 150 feet, maybe 200 feet. I could hear them. And so they were walking home. So they had just dropped me off right at that time that I would have gotten out of school, and right in front of my neighbor's house. And the neighbor's house faced the road, where my house was next door, that faced the actual, like it was on a regular street, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, I walked home, 20 feet to get to my house, or 30 feet, whatever. So, and no, I didn't say anything to my parents because I was scared, absolutely and totally scared. And I knew, this is the truth. I knew this wasn't for my parents. This wasn't my parents to do. This was my to do. And it sounds, like, oh, well, what do you mean you're 7? You're a little girl. It's like, no, I didn't come in as a little girl, like I came in with this knowledge, and it wasn't it wasn't anybody else's to hold but mine. Um and I knew that, it's almost like, in retrospect, I think what I was understanding was like, I don't want to say like you're at war, but
Uh,
like you're not wanted here.
Mm,
And that's what I understood.
yeah.
right.
Well, we're a threat if you are a star seed, for lack of a better term, you're a threat to whatever game they're playing here, and all the suppression and
The
you know, y-
system, the control system.
yeah, the
You're,
control
Yeah.
system.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
we
then the
can.
question is, why haven't they just taken us all out if they could do that? Well, now I think we're being protected, right? Because why wouldn't they just take you out? Why did they do that little game? And like, you're still here, obviously, you're speaking truth. You're
Yeah,
waking people up. Like,
because
okay,
they,
they
yeah,
can't.
sorry.
No, I'm
No,
just saying, like they would have if they could. So clearly they can't.
they
Otherwise,
learn from
they would
us.
do that. Right.
Because they learn from us. I think that's the thing. I think
Mhm.
that they lack such creativity. I think they are really on that destructive cycle, like that is who and what they are. And I
Mhm.
think that they lack creativity. So they learn from us. So it's why they copy, it's why they mimic, it's why they
But they
um
also want to twist it around to keep us suppressed and enslaved. Humanity in general, I'm talking about suppressed and
absolutely.
enslaved. Right.
Yes, that's the inversion, right? They have to learn from us to know what to invert.
Right. Right.
There you go.
I
Yeah.
think you nailed it exactly.
Well, I think you nailed it. No, and
Yeah.
here's the weird thing. Try saying this, a long time ago. And it's like now it all makes sense, right? Like you can actually see what's going on in the world. Like you can see it. It's so much more obvious. The ops are obvious, the lies are obvious, and like you can see it. But back then, it was like, well, why are they doing this? What is going on? And the more light that comes in the planet, the more we're seeing that the icky dark that's there.
Right. It's very true. Yeah,
Exactly.
it was more of a mystery back then. Now it's like now you see it and you're like, damn, they'll try anything.
They're
It's
not
like,
Yeah.
even they're not even being subtle at all
right, yeah.
anymore. Right. They're just
No,
Uh,
no,
openly saying these
no.
things and doing these
Yeah.
it
things.
I
Yeah,
saw
they're not being subtle. It's in your face now.
Right.
I saw a meme. It's like if you still don't see what's happening and like you're choosing the wrong side of history or whatever, it's like you're failing an open note test right now because
Open
it's
book test.
yeah, an open
Right.
yeah. It's true because it's right there and I don't know, but that's a whole different
Well, that's
conversation,
what fear in programming does to people.
right?
It can be so obvious in your face, you still won't look at or see what's so obvious and want to believe it, or
Right.
It's
you want to
historic.
believe the false reality because that's your identity, so tied to that. You're so in fear of losing that. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how obvious it is for the people like that.
Absolutely. And when I did all the work with emotional intelligence, I did that for a long time, almost 20 years. And I would see that and I would come up with all this training material to try to help people because we work with like emotional intelligence tests. And then you'd work with this, come up with these training exercises to help people increase their emotional intelligence, which worked. And one of the things I saw was like people's whatever they valued was tied to what their emotional state was, right? So then you take that and then look at like, people's paradigms and their, their view of the world. And yeah, that proves the point that you can see something that's right in front of your face and then somebody will justify it and go, oh well, no, they're trying to help, right? Oh, it's for the greater good. Or it's just
Right.
but that is tied to the values for sure. It's not just like willful ignorance. It's like
Right.
their values are
Yeah.
are that they believe that they're acting in a way that's in a betterment of something.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I don't know much of your story after that. Have you had contact since then? Is it continuing? Is there any moments that stand out that you'd like to share with with us and the audience? And what have you learned from that?
Okay, I'll do my best. Please interject as you feel okay.
Yeah,
um
sure.
so I had so it wasn't just the we say ET, but really, to me it's these were very high energy forms, and there's a lot of what I feel is celestial, call it the grand overview effect, right? Like these beings, at least that I've been connected to, it's like they have this grand overview effect. Like they are in the cosmos on this more subtle level of energy. What I believe is what we're moving towards. Like the earth is moving towards this, and I think humanity is moving towards this. When I was 21, which was a while ago now, I ended up having these beings come to the edge of my bed, and I was with my it was my daughter's father at the time. We were just, we were college students, and he was there, and he experienced part of it, not the whole thing, but part of it. And these beings were extremely tall, and I remember they were just looking at me, like they were literally like scanning me and looking at me. And I'm thinking, what are they looking at? And why do they know me better than I know myself? Like, what is this, right? And the next thing I know, I'm literally being like zipped through space time. One is on my left, one is on my right. And I can now say that it was like I was in a Merkaba, and they were showing me the they were showing me a like a baby growing universe, and they were telling me, and they were, sharing these formulas, and they were telling me um, that our scientists had the Big Bang wrong. But what I was understanding is that the universe that we're in condenses and works to birth a new universe. And they came back about 12 years later and then showed me the evolution of that. And I worked with Dr. Rudy Shield, who's a Harvard astrophysicist. So I started very early on because I was a part of Dr. John Mack's group at Harvard. Because I had just graduated with like my degree in psychology from college, and I'm thinking, oh, well, someone's studying this and I know about this. So, hey, I want to be part of not your research to be studied, but be part of creating the research. Unfortunately, I was part of the research to be studied as it went at the time. But I share that because, I had this experience about this about cosmology, and about the energy of life and our experiences, positive, negative charges, and that this seems to be kind of moving into the one with this planetary shift. And so that was really different, than what I experienced growing up. It was like there was an evolution to my contact experiences, and as I got a little bit older, and by the way, there's a interview that a friend of mine did, Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle Wright, with Dr. Rudy Shield, where he acknowledges that and shares that freely in his interview with her about my stuff. So, there's validation, on that piece. But it was great because here you had the scientist that was open to listening to people that had contact to try to understand, from his world, from an astrophysics standpoint, like how this stuff was possible. And what I think is important in that piece is that, just because we're in this physical body here on Earth doesn't mean our spiritual evolution stops, right? Like I got the sense, and it took me ages to accept this, by the way, like, because this stuff happened, 21 and then like 33 years old, um, that I'm not better or worse because I have this. It just is. Like, and I wrote an article recently. It's like the cosmos is going to evolve. Like the Earth is going to do her thing, The cosmos is going to evolve. The sun's going to do its thing. The central sun, like, you know, all of these different cosmological bodies, I believe, are sentient and
Right.
have, consciousness. They're going to do their thing, and they're very, very big, and
Right.
and we may be connected to it, but they're going to do their thing. They're going to go through their cycles, and we as human beings, are a part of that. So, people are like, well, what does this mean? What have you? And I said, well, I just know that this is part of wherever I'm going next, especially when I'm not in this body anymore.
Hmm.
That's part of where I go to next. So maybe I got a little bit of a flash forward of the cosmos and its growth cycle, and maybe it does relate to what we're going on here. But I know that piece is for something, for my spirit, right? My spiritual growth, and taking on maybe something new and different in this next phase.
Right.
So that happened. Seeing different beings come in, teaching me about healing, that I then worked on people for about 5 years out of my home, taking care of people, doing these energetic healings. And that was all, private. Like I didn't advertise anything. It was just word of mouth. And when I was done, I was done. The next thing I know, I had, God's honest truth, I had ships come over my house. It was October 2011. And I knew that meant that I needed to then go work on new energy technology. And I did that for, over a decade, and I'm still involved in that. So, there's been a lot of guidance, with, with this. And I'd probably say the most important part recently is what I call this heart entrainment process that's gone on, where if I can share an example, because I feel like I may be talking too much.
Oh
One more
no,
example.
of course you can. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's all fascinating. I mean, I have a million questions, but keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so the what I've seen, like most people don't know this. I've had a pretty hard life in the sense of, when I say hard, my dad died of cancer. I have a family neurological genetic disease that's impacted a lot of my family. My brother died, my mom died of it, and I have siblings that are impacted and affected by it. So, I share that because, you know, working to get out of this cyclic human condition of this short life and these negative emotions and feelings, right? The negative is there to guide us to work through and move through things. And so, it, it, the beings, this is where the ships and the beings relate to it. There's been this, what I call this entrainment process of my heart. There's times like I get angry, upset if people are not taking care of themselves properly, or, fall into the whole fear and ignorance thing, or hatred. It's awful. It's awful. It's awful to feel it. It's awful to witness it. And, there's a better way. And, I have had, I have had, like I'm divorced from my daughter's dad. And, there was a moment sometimes you just don't get along with people that you were formerly in a relationship with, no matter how hard you try, you just kind of like, it's just not really there. And I was looking through these pictures, and I saw a picture of myself, my ex-husband, and my daughter, as, when we were in a family unit together. And I had this feeling of love in my heart, like, just, it's like the center point in your heart. You can feel it. And it just kind of like, you get this like pump of oxygen, and it's just like feels good. It's almost like it flows in a different way than it was flowing a couple minutes before. And I innately just step outside and I look up in the sky, and boom, there's a ship, right? It was just like, here, that. And that's gone on a lot. It's
So
gone on a lot.
so when all these beings come back and teach you stuff and you see the ships, is it always the same ship, same beings?
No, no. I mean, no. The one that provided the healing was a lovely, what felt female, and it was a singular individual. And I wasn't able to see their face. They asked, and I said yes at first, and then I said no because I got scared.
Hmm.
And then, they still presented what they presented. I felt like that was, again, not foreign. It felt like that could have been a different version of me. I'm not saying it was, but it felt like this higher dimensional energy that if I had to put it, in some type of classification, it felt like it would be an energy. Was it? I don't know, but that's what it felt like, because it was just so loving and wise and patient. And
Right.
yeah, so no, but what I see a lot now is I will see the flashes in the sky, but multiple. It's not like it's just one flash.
Hmm.
And then, there's times that when I know that I'm with people that want to see, like I've had family that has wanted to see. So we go out in the backyard after having a nice dinner, doing a nice little, like everybody say grace and hold hands, and, just being good good spirits. Be thankful. Let's just have fun, go outside, play in the yard. And then, that happens. Like we'll see. And one fun thing is I remember singing, and the ship like powered up to the height of my sound, to brightness. And then I started, as I went, down singing. It was in complete and total unison. So, you know, there's play back and forth, but it's part of what I'm calling like an entrainment process. And my sense is, if I can be so bold, is that, we are embodying, um, we're embodying this. This is like a transfer, that, not that they lose anything, but like there's a transference that is occurring with us. And I think that's part of the shift on the planet as well.
Right. I agree.
Absolutely.
Just looking at my notes, something I wanted to ask you at the beginning for when you're on your first experience,
Yeah.
you mentioned you felt like they were testing your central nervous system.
Oh yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So thank you. See, I can't remember. There's so much to it, you know. Yeah, so I remember when I was on the ship, and again, it didn't move. It was above the treetops. Even then I knew it was above the treetops. That I remember there was this other being that was there, and what I was getting the sense is they wanted to test my like my empathic resonance, to test like the central nervous system for that, for the empathic resonance. And the sense that I got was that there was this attunement process. I sometimes wish I wasn't so empathic as I am. I can't watch like like a movie with violence. Like I can't do it. Like
Right.
I can't do it. So yeah, that was the sense that I got, that it was an attunement to that empathic resonance. Was it? I don't know, but that was the sense that I got at the time. And also being able to feel uncomfortable, like uncomfortable emotions like
What
that.
making you familiar with the uncomfortable emotions so you can like withstand it down here? Is that what you mean? Or
That's that's a great point. Maybe, because there's wisdom in being able to feel
Mm,
things. There's
right.
wisdom in
yeah.
being able to feel, like for example, I watched my mom die, she of this genetic disease over, over a decade. And if I didn't feel maybe part of what she felt and didn't feel the pain of a daughter losing her mom, and I lost her, like I said, when I was at a young age. Like if I didn't feel those things, then it wouldn't have inspired me to do the healing that I did on myself over the years that I did it. Because I went to
Right.
Peru, worked with shamans, like well before it was popular and things like that. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm not accepting this death sentence if I have this thing. So like, I think there's a wisdom in the capacity to feel things that are uncomfortable. But your point that you made was a good one
Yeah.
too.
I mean,
And
well, that, go ahead.
seemingly negative experiences have those blessings hidden within them that you don't really usually realize until later on. Then you look back, you go, oh my God, because that happened, now this amazing thing happened, or now I gained this wisdom from that, or that happens all the time, and that's what they say, like, God works in mysterious ways, the universe works in mysterious ways that at the time you don't know what's happening until you have a greater perspective from later on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
Right.
there's the pain and the experiences is a part of that. You have
Right.
to feel it, right?
Yeah. And even, even go back to the kidnapping experience, because I was, when I was taken, what they did, they didn't do anything to me, other than, kidnapping me, and yes, and putting that thing over my mouth that, allowed me to not see exactly where they were taking me. But what they exposed me to, it was meant to really split me. It
Right.
didn't. Ha.
Right.
Um, but even that experience, I thought about it. I'm like, wow, I incarnated in to be able to have that happen. And I think that that was part of, it was part of that understanding. Of course, it was terrible. It was awful, but it helped me to understand what has been played out on the public now on a mass level. You
Right.
know,
Yep.
my husband is he's a medical investigative journalist. Can I talk about COVID here or no?
Oh yeah, we're
Yeah,
good to go.
absolutely.
Say it all.
Yeah.
The minute it happened, he said they're going to vaccinate everybody, and the second words out of my mouth in our house was, "It's behavior modification."
Yeah.
And
Hmm. Yep.
It,
anyways, so
um, among among many other things
Among
that are
other
doing that.
things,
oh yeah,
the vaccine
Yeah,
agenda.
we just interviewed somebody who she was a massage therapist and she had to stop taking clients that got the jab because they were carrying entities all of a sudden. And she's an energy healer, and she could see like it was like an open invitation to allow an entity to take the driver's seat of their soul, and that's kind of what happened. But going back to
heard
what
that.
going
Yeah,
back to what you said about the learning through feelings. I mean, that's the only way we actually learn. Actually, forget the information.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
about the information. It's all frequency. It's all emotion. It's all feeling. That's why you tuned out in school. You were on a different radio station. You were not tuned into that station because you knew it was bullshit. Some part of you
Yeah.
knew.
Yeah.
But that's how we learn. And I think that's amazing whenever you're able to be so in tune because the amount of data that comes through those feelings, and it's not like you have to read a book or be told or listen to something to be educated. I think
Yeah.
the true education comes in forms like that.
You reminded me of something. I used to I love this conversation. Thank you both.
Yeah.
And you reminded me when I used to work with a lot of clients around the world, like doing this emotional intelligence work. And I do a lot of one-on-ones, and a lot of it was with like, executives and professors and things like that. And somebody said to me one time, and my husband, so I have a husband. As I mentioned earlier, he's the medical investigative journalist. He said this, he said this, and then this client said this. He said, you have a tendency, once you find something that's uncomfortable in somebody, you go in there and you like grab it, and then you just keep going in and going and going to try to like, you know, get it explicit and make
Right.
awareness around it. So to take what's unconscious to make it conscious. He's like, it feels awful. He's like, but it's like you're good afterwards. You know what I mean? Like and
Mhm.
so, you're reminding me of that piece. And the criticalness of being able to take those micro expressions that come out, that leak right through people sometimes, and to really figure out what's there. You can do it through hypnosis and through lots of different ways, but in real time is usually the best if you can manage to make that happen. So you're right. You just reminded me of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's important. We can read somebody like a book without them opening their mouth, and
Yeah.
they tell you everything just by the energy that they carry and the energy behind what they're saying. It's not necessarily what they're saying, and that's something we talk about a lot on this channel. But uh,
Yeah.
Right.
because we like to help, we don't want to just like the whole purpose for the show isn't just to tell people like what to think. We just explore. Like actually, I would say we kind of promote critical thinking more than anything, and like
I don't want people to just believe
right,
what is said on the
exactly.
show just because it's said on the show. That's the opposite of what we're about, right? We're like,
Yeah,
you need to
so
become your own, yeah, sovereign being to figure out for yourself what
So
is
I,
true.
that's why I always want to discuss like don't forget what this influencer's saying in the UFO community. Forget this galactic update and everything. What's the overall message behind it? What's the energy behind it? And I like to just make people aware on like how to critical think, how to approach this, and don't just take everything at face value because there's so many times along the way where we're challenged. Our beliefs are challenged, and we have to let go of we learn and let go all the
Yes.
time.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%. And I mean, and that's, I guess, why you guys are titled Journey to Truth, because
Right.
people do have to come to their own conclusions. And that's the way that we get there, absolutely.
Mhm.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, even the teachings that I've received from, these beings showing me things cosmologically, they were never like the second time that I had that experience, like literally experiencing what it was like the evolution of this birth in the cosmos. They didn't tell me anything. They wanted me to tell them what I was picking up, what I thought. And then they nodded in approval if it was correct.
Right.
So like that's how we learn, right? Not to being
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so have you from these experiences have you gotten any foresight into the future and where we're at right now and what the hell's happening on this planet? Like, is there any
mm,
information that comes through surrounding that, or even your own opinion if you want?
What the bleep is
yeah.
going on?
What's
Right.
What? Yeah.
going on? Well, okay, so like a lot of contactees, I received first of all, I seem with my incarnations to always come when there was a big transition on the planet. I remembered that in multiple um past lives, right? So, and it's weird because I'm born on like the cusp. I'm born on a equinox, like fall equinox, like between summer leaving and like fall coming. So I seem to see like I'm like a transition person. So it is my belief that in our lifetime we will experience this great planetary shift, and I think there has been a lot of preparation and assistance for that, and like those golden pot of beings that I saw. I think like myself, along with others, we're here to help stabilize as much as possible while we go through this shift. Because there's so much chaos right now that's happening. And, chaos is okay to a point, but, a lot of people can get taken down in chaos and never come up that maybe are supposed to. I write a lot about the electromagnetic changes with the sun. I seem to be super tuned in with the energy of the sun. I believe that the sun is sentient, and it's helping to create this huge shift that we've got that continues to happen. So with that piece being said, um, a lot of the visions that I got as a kid are happening now, and before, in my younger mind, it was, oh God, like what's going to happen when this happens. However, it does seem that the more that we can, raise our vibration and really continue to raise our vibration while we're in this chaos, and it's going to become even weirder and more strange. But if we can do that, we don't necessarily have to experience the same reality that people that haven't gotten out of that chaos will experience.
Right.
And that, I believe, is what this big shift is about. Now, is it all about that? No, God, of course not. Like, I only know this
Mhm.
and I share what I know. But that's why I think it's critical that we learn how to, it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. Like, be our own creator, truly be in love, be honest with ourselves, be honest with others, live a good life, as best as we know how, protect ourselves and honor whatever journey that we really have here, because the more that this planet shifts, we have an eclipse coming up shortly too, the more that this shifts, I think you're going to find there's going to be a greater division between density and things that are not as dense, like things that have more of that light in there. So that's what I think. And I do, it's going to sound a little wild, but I do believe that we will be able to have more, communication and communion with these other sentient life forces, and I'm going to include animals in that as well. We've got sentience here on this planet. You've got the air, you've got the elementals, you've got the trees, you've got all of this intelligence that's actually there that responds to us. So, and
Mhm.
that's one of the other pieces of the teachings, what I'm calling this entrainment process with the ships and the beings, is that there's this great collaboration. Like when that ship came over that tree, there was an agreement with that tree that was okay.
Yeah.
It sound a
Right.
little weird, but like, these are the types of non-violating things. This is all agreement at this micro life force level.
Right.
I've heard people call it microvita, right? Like the like consciousness at this mini life level. Like this all has to be in collaboration and agreement. And I think that's that subtlety that we're moving to.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's an agreement with the tree to allow the craft to even hover over the tree. It's in unison. It's all like they understand things at a far higher level, superior level than we do, obviously. It
Right.
it reminds me of whenever I was in Colorado and I was with a friend and there was these Sasquatch, these forest people energetically that showed up, and
Mhm.
she's in tune and she can channel, and she was communicating with them, but I couldn't see them. And I asked, I said, "Can you shake a tree for me so I can like perceive you?" And they started laughing, and she was laughing, but I thought she was laughing at me, but she was laughing on their behalf. And well, for one, they said, "We're not hiding. That we're not hiding. We're right here. It's up to you to
Mhm.
perceive us."
Right.
And then two, they said, why would we hurt our friend? Why would we shake? Would you shake your friend?" And
Right.
the tree. and it was like they couldn't
Conscious.
it could it didn't compute to them. Like why would you shake the tree? Why would you shake your friend? That would hurt them, you know?
There, that
Yeah.
reminds you. There was a scientist like David Wilcock goes over this in his first book that did all these studies about like he would like do things to plants and trees and stuff, and then he would they would like scream in quotes like whenever he would do that, and then not only that, so like it proved that plants and everything is conscious. Like so you would do that, and then the same person that would do that, like him, would walk back in the room, and the plant would do it again just when he would walk back in the room, like in anticipation of it happening again or something. Like
Mm.
everything, all these plants are conscious.
And
Not just
they
the animal plants, the planet itself is a conscious being that
Yes.
is ascending. Like everything is alive and conscious, and that's what we're waking up to, and we're
Yes.
realizing we're connected to all of that. We're not There's no separation. So why would you
Correct.
hurt yourself? Basically is what it comes down to. You wouldn't when you become conscious, right?
Exactly.
yeah
Exactly. And like um speaking about like the ships, like one of the things that I've learned is that like this agreement process, like this is what's been shown over these last couple of years, and I've got pictures of this. I put it in like a mini presentation I did. It's like two private groups. Nobody paid for anything. It wasn't like that. It was
Mhm.
just to share the information. In you can see even the clouds are in agreement,
yeah
like
Right.
it's this is what this is what's opening up. So when people are like waiting for the ET to come or waiting for a ship to come or whatever, it's like just go and connect with your local, like your backyard, wherever you live, wherever that is, like your favorite place, a place that you feel called, if it is in your yard or whatever. But like those natural sources, to be able to just connect and to continue to have the relationship and to continue to cultivate that relationship, because yeah, it's all in concert with one another, and that's the coolest part. And that's what I see.
right.
So yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned from a previous interview, you said it's not survival of the fittest anymore, it's survival of the most conscious. And I thought that was clever.
Right. Right.
Because it is. It's not. We're
That.
go ahead. Well, if you like to add
No,
to
no,
that.
no, go. Say more.
No, I just thought it was clever because it's true. We're all in survival mode, right? But now, like, you can either just survive and be fit, but now being consciously aware, that's a whole new level. And then that's when it comes into like dropping into your heart and being balanced and in alignment with nature, because then you're going to be open to receive whatever you need to help you navigate these times. And it's crucial. It's crucial to do that. And I just thought it was clever, a clever
Yeah.
comment. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess because again, doing the emotional intelligence work, you learn about Darwin and survival and things like that. And I'm like, I remember teaching it, teaching emotional intelligence, and because there's the amygdala is like the primitive part of our brain, and the prefrontal cortex is like that higher consciousness, right? And it's like, wait, we're not, it's not about like building the fire and do we need food to eat? Yes. Do we need protection? Yes, we need those basics, there's no doubt about that. But over focusing on that, it's already been done, like cycles and time over and over. This is the time where we are able to meet the greater cosmic community. And if you actually look, you can see that the Earth is moving, the solar system, the galaxy is moving to a different place in the universe. I mean, that's what's happening. And
Yeah.
so you look at that and go, well, there's a lot more. And if you actually look and see where we are in relation to the whole like alleged whole universe, not that we can actually really know that, but based on these models, there's a lot more action that's going on as you get closer to this, like this middle plane.
Right.
And I think that's what the ETs have been trying to tell us. They're like, hey, uh the old way that you guys are doing it is not going to work to what's really happening with the energy of your planet, your solar system, and your galaxy, folks. Like, time to get on the picture, like time to get into this thing, because
Right.
that's the real energy that's happening and going on. And I think maybe when we're like, oh my God, this is great shift, it's like because we've been so, sorry, I think I'm going off here, I think we've been so told such a inverted story, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's like for a long time we've been told this inverted story, and it's like, oh my God, you got to rip the whole body band-aid, off at once right now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's
The
not.
awakening is like, it's like on super speed right now. It's like happening so fast because it has to, like it's all happening now. And it's like you either got to like raise up with the planet that's ascending that we're on, or you're gonna have to go somewhere else.
Yep.
And a lot of people are having a very intense, quick awakening
Yeah,
because
and the sun's not going to slow down. We're in the height of solar cycle 25. Is going to keep going until it needs to, it needs to not, go anymore at that point. And I feel like this next year or two, we're on go here. It's like we're being supported by the sun for this great wake up.
Right.
And so, I do believe we've got a little bit of a time issue here. And I tell people, I give everybody advice on this. I'm like, don't wait. Like, if you've got something to clear out, do it now. Like, stop
Oh, yeah.
drinking.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Like, there's certain things that are not going to help depending upon where certain people are. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Right.
100%. Yeah. I agree. I mean, we
Take
could.
responsibility for your own shit and heal it,
Yeah.
and seek healing, do the inner work, seek connection with people, all these things. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people want to blame everything, play into the victim, right, and blame everything on everyone else and not actually take any responsibility for themselves. Well, we can't do that anymore. That
No.
time's long gone for that. We have to start taking responsibility
Well,
and doing the inner work and raising our consciousness.
I would say,
Yep.
like, you can't do that anymore if that's your path. Like, if you're
If that right.
because literally everyone is at a different place
Yes.
in the game.
Depending
right?
on the person, right?
Yeah. So if you want to ascend, let's just say, and transform, I guess is a
Yep.
good way. If you want to move on and shift with the times, then you have to start acknowledging all that stuff and be self-aware.
It's your choice, right? It's
Yeah.
up to you. So you got to,
You
you
don't
can
have to do it, but you're going to choosing to stay wherever you are,
Right, right.
Yeah, 100%. Like, let me give you an example. I don't judge people that drink. Let me just share that. I have a 21-year-old daughter who's in college, like, just goes out and has fun.
Right.
And there's no judgment there. Because the bottom line is like, well, how do you feel afterwards? Like, are you okay? Like, I mean, for me, okay, a couple years ago, I would have like, a little bit of wine or whatever, like here, the champagne or on holidays or whatever. And I couldn't touch it. Like, it got to a point, my body was treating it like it was poison.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, that
100%.
wasn't part of my path. Right. And I think that's, kind of like the bottom line here. You guys brought up is, there's certain people that are feeling this niggle, right? Like, oh, time to shift this or do that or wake up. And then, if they're not, then things are getting worse in their life. It's almost like, hey, it's showing you that if you don't do X, Y, Z, yeah, and it's not for everybody. I mean, I think a lot of us who've been in this arena for a little while realize it's not for everybody.
Right.
Then they're maybe not supposed to do whatever we're doing.
Exactly. And your body does, when you're listening to your body, it starts recognizing it as the poison that it's always been. But now you're at a frequency to where your body, like last time I decided I'm going to go have some drinks with some friends, some old friends. And I could look at it as the biggest mistake or the biggest lesson because it was amazing. I was able to see how much like I did not belong on that timeline. It was completely over. And that was like, if there was such thing as a final straw, that was it. Because now I understood on a new level why I can't play in that realm anymore. Like it was just over. Like and my body,
Right.
the amount of recovery time it took and everything, just from like it's insane. And it's a whole thing that I observed while doing it. And I can go on and on, but you lower
Oh no,
yourself.
I
Yeah.
think it's good. I mean, like, even, I went to I drink half decaf, half regular coffee, right? I like
Right.
coffee. And not for the caffeine, I just like the smell and the taste and the whole experience. There you go, the whole
Coffee right
experience.
now.
Right.
And like a week ago, I'm like, the minute I took a sip, it hit my stomach's like, what are you doing to me? And I'm like, what? Like, no. And that was like, and I look at it and go, okay, we're upon an eclipse. I think my body's gone clean, super clean, none of this, none of that, whatever clean means, at the time. And, I'm just kind of hoping like eclipse is over, then I can go back to just having a little bit more.
Right.
So, but it's such our body, when we listen to it, right? Because there's the microvita that's in our body, these little cells. Like I make jokes and, say my body is telling me, like it's like no, or yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we listen to it.
Listen to your body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Because it speaks more loudly than it ever has.
Right.
And the way I see it is it's all energy, and we don't have the luxury right now to misuse our energy like that. I feel like we should really be hyper focused on what we're doing, where we're putting our energy and who we're giving our energy to in exchange for whatever else. Like everything's an exchange, right? And I just think it's important to be hyper aware of that right now, because it's detrimental. You start feeling things at a different level. Your energy body is like the energetic hygiene that has to take place is like so it's just as crucial as the rest of the hygiene, right? But if not more.
Totally. I absolutely. I mean, my life is very abnormal, I would say, in comparison to most people on a daily basis. Probably not to both of you, but like to most people. And it's because of that. Like I came in being able to hear, right? Like this connection, call it to source, whatever, my higher self. I came in with that and it started to get challenged because my, growing up was like my house was loud, with my siblings. And I would, like I said, I would go in the closet and I would like literally cover, put cover clothes over myself to hide. And it wasn't hide and go seek. It was literally like I needed to hear my higher self. And that was the only way I knew how to navigate like my
Right.
day to day, right? Because
Hmm.
the beings aren't going to do everything for you. It's like that's how I knew how to do it. And I don't hide in the closet anymore, but like I will do that a lot. I'll just sit in silence just to be able to like, hear and hear and hear. And I think that's what a lot of us are being asked to do.
Right.
Um, is to, and I think these solar energies are doing that too. Like they're asking us to just sometimes sit and listen, and it's just to ourself and maybe ourself as connected to something bigger, like maybe it's our eternal self.
Hmm.
um
And
because
I
world that
think
wants
go
busy all
ahead.
the time. I was just going to say we live in a world that wants us to be busy. I mean, how many times do I get, what are you doing, what are you doing? I'm like, well, what if I'm doing nothing? Is that okay?
Right.
Because it's okay with me, it's okay with you.
Right. You have to
Seriously.
really get to a place to where you can be okay with doing nothing, because we're
Yeah.
trained to think that we're wasting time if we're just, we're being lazy or whatever. Or, but the thing is if you're being, quote, lazy and giving yourself time and space, guess what? You're not going to get sick nearly as much because you're listening to your body now. But if you're constantly going and going and going because you don't want to be lazy and you want to be busy and you should be making money and doing this, you're ignoring all the signs, everything your body's trying to tell you. And then your body is like, oh, you're not going to rest. Well, guess what? Now you're going to rest and you're going to be sick
Yeah. Yeah.
because,
You
yeah,
can't give from an empty cup, and you can't be
right,
healthy when you're right.
Especially,
And
yeah.
we're beings, we're not doings, right? We're
right,
human beings, not human doing. But like society wants to program you to think, oh, your worth comes from what you do. So you have to just do all these things, and there's some like imaginary, you know, like, oh, now you're good enough at the certain level or something. It's like, no, that's all a program. That's all a mind control program. It's all about like you cultivate your being, and then your actions come from that place to in
Right.
to out, not out to in, which is completely inverted, you know.
And you got social media that's constantly showing you what other people are doing for you to have a
Right.
comparison to that,
yeah,
right? And
Right.
think about the kids that grew up with social media and that's all that they knew. Again, I'll refer to my daughter. It's like, we have conversations about this, and how that impacts her self-esteem and what she feels like she should be doing or not be doing.
right,
And thank God she's
Right.
got a pretty good, strong sense of self because, like it's
yeah,
hard for kids, right? And adults, like, yeah, so the funky little society that we've gotten ourselves into with the capacity to just listen to yourself and hear yourself authentically.
right. They're
Exactly.
they're programming everyone with socially constructed insecurities, and to make them feel like they're not good enough if they don't look like this Instagram model or this self-made millionaire or whatever it is. They give
Whatever.
you this
Yeah.
mold that you're supposed to feel like you need to squeeze into, or otherwise you don't fit in. And that mold actually is lacking purpose. There is no
No one
purpose
will
in life
like
in my
you
life.
unless you're this
Right,
and this and this. Yeah. It's
right.
all
And in the research that's come out, since then on a lot of this, and on the social media piece, I mean, like it's there, right? And this, I put him in my last article, and I think he actually just had an interview on Tucker Carlson. There's he's a MD, and I think he's got his PhD too. Michael Nels, he's talks about
Yeah.
neuroscience, and like the neurogenesis, like your brain is supposed to be learning new things and doing new things. This is part of our natural evolution. And, when we're constantly given a construct of a story of what we're supposed to believe, right? And then you've got the programming of fear constantly, it's actually like shrinking your hippocampus, which
hmm
means that somebody else can come in and rewrite that story. That's part of like the MK Ultra stuff as well,
Right.
and anyways, so this is where it's like, break out of this garbage that
Right.
is slowly, atrophying our natural capacities, because we're at a time, like keep saying this, we're at a time that these natural capacities, I think this is why they have to work so hard to do this, because our natural capacities are able to really pop and go forth during this time. I think we are living at a time of great evolution. I think the sun is assisting us on that, and I think these abilities that some of us have, whether we came born with or because of contact, whatever, I think we do all have these abilities to be telepathic and to be intuitive. I don't think it's extraordinary. I actually think it's just part of what makes us, alive and sentient.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And not only does everybody have the abilities, I think everyone is in some form of contact or communication with higher density beings anyway, but that contact looks different for everyone.
Yes, it does.
It can show up in so many different forms and ways you're not even really consciously aware most of the time.
Yes. Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
so true. So true. And you guys, I won't do it now, but I have to show you a picture that I took this morning of something that like it will just be fun to look at, because things do appear in ways that you can't even anticipate, for
Is it
sure.
something you want to show here on the
No,
Oh, okay.
not yet. It's too new, but
Okay.
maybe afterwards you
Sure,
can share
okay.
it with your audience. But
Well,
really for public, but it's just it's so unique. You can't,
yeah,
yeah,
Right.
right.
yeah.
That's
Well,
amazing.
this has been amazing. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining us today. And can you please let our audience know where they can find you and what you're up to now and all that stuff?
Okay, first of all, thank you both so much. I didn't know what to anticipate. I'm so grateful that you guys are doing what you're doing and you have the awareness that you have and you're not holding back on things. So that means a lot. And so thank you, because like you guys are honestly like a dream come true for getting a more accurate view of things out. So honestly, I'm in deep gratitude to both of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel that. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I write on Substack. So it's IET evolve at substack.com, or .substack.com. And you just have to sign up to be able to read the articles that are there. That's it. And it is free. Um, Let me see what else. So I'm also involved in I started a research project that I'm super stoked about. And the title of it is Evolutionary Adaptive Abilities and looking at the relationship with the sun. So I just started that project, and I'm in the process of collaborating with a couple of other groups and one university as well, to be able to do this. And it's a good university. It's not one that will take our information and, put it in places and spaces or try to stop it. And I'm not doing it as part of a PhD program so it can, move more freely. It's
Mm,
just basically making sure that there's good science that's there to be able to do this in an effective way. So I'm super excited about that. And, obviously we'll be sharing results with people. Just go on a minute about that. I think the work that was done in emotional intelligence. I think this is this next phase of what we can, do with some of our capabilities that are coming in. Sometimes if you just make things more explicit, the next thing you know, it's like we're all working and doing this. And that's really the hope and the goal with this research. So
Wow.
that's you can find me on Substack. I don't have a huge Instagram or anything like that. But I think Substack is probably the best way to find me.
Yeah, and I did just read the article you sent, and I watched a little video with it, and I watched the movie. What is it called? Jules?
Jules.
Jules, yeah. Because of your article, I watched that movie last night, and I was planning on putting it on to fall asleep, and I like was stuck to the screen the whole time. Have you seen it, Aaron? Jules?
No, I'll have to check that
It's
out.
it's about this UFO that crash lands in this guy's backyard, and he basically takes the ET in and keeps it safe and like houses the ET while he repairs his craft to leave. Anyway,
Oh, nice.
it was really good, and it didn't have the negative twist that I expected, like from most ET movies.
Yeah, it was a
Fantastic.
sleeper. I saw it on a plane and my husband and I saw it and we're both crying. And I'm like, who made this movie? Like, this
Right,
is so cute. And it's not going to get any attention, but it was nice to see something like that come back, on the screen, even if it was just a little blip, right?
right.
Versus all the other stuff we've been seeing for these many years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
empowering. It was very it was good. It left me with a good feeling. I was not expecting that.
Same
Yeah.
here. Same here. Yeah.
Definitely
So
will watch
you
that.
gotta see it, Aaron.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I will. Thank you.
you would like it, definitely. All
Prime, or where is it?
it
Where
was
can you
on.
watch it?
I found it on Prime, Amazon Prime. Yeah,
Okay. Or you
but
can like buy it or rent it. Yeah, I'm
yeah, I'm
sure.
sure it's called just Jules, right? Or
Jules, Jules. And I did put a link in the article for people to, try to make it easy
right.
for people to be able to
Right.
access it. I don't know anything about the backstory of like the person who wrote it or anything like that, but
Yeah.
yeah. So many times I was gasping like, oh God, like please don't let the deep state come in and get him.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
good. It was good. I'm so glad you watched that. That's so sweet.
Yeah. No, thank you for. I mean, if I hadn't read your article, so keep writing because it leads to something.
I'm
Right.
glad you picked up that part as opposed to maybe some of the other stuff. I was like,
Well,
uh,
I mean all this stuff. Actually, I had a bunch of questions about stuff that you wrote in that article. We didn't even really get there, but I mean that's also an important conversation. So I encourage everyone to read it, and I'll put all the links in the description as always. So
okay,
uh,
cool.
yeah. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And thank you guys all for being here. We love you all. We can't wait to see you at the conference. And if you haven't decided if you're going, you should, because we're going to have a lot of fun. And, always take advantage of an opportunity to go meet with Soul Family and hang out by the bonfire and Skywatch and just tell stories and laugh, because that's what it's about. We're activating each other, and all the information and the presenters, that's just a bonus. But it's amazing. And I think we forget sometimes how crucial it is to actually connect with each other and hug each other. God, it's amazing whenever you get to do that. Everyone's so distanced nowadays. So anyway, if you want to join us, you can find tickets at rebelsofdisclosure.com, and that link is below. We love you all. Thank you for being here, and have a great evening. Good night.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, It was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time.
Actually, I was quoting Sherry.
That's the last time Brad will ever quote me.
Hey guys, we hope you can join us this year at the Rebels of Disclosure Conference in Grafton, Illinois at the Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center, May 13th through the 16th. As you can see, we have tons of fun. We made some great memories, and we just wanted to take this opportunity to extend the invite to all of you who've never been. It's so much fun, and it's so important to connect with Soul Family, and we just really look forward to seeing everyone out there.
Yeah, I hope to see you all there. It's a blast. It's really something that you have to experience to know how amazing it is, and it's so much more than just the speakers. It's an amazing time, and it's amazing to connect with Soul Family. So we hope to see you all there.
And all of that information is below at rebelsofdisclosure.com. So grab a ticket and join us. We hope to see you there.